Hey folks, Jimmy here, aka Palette of the Dead. Welcome back to the channel and another Getting Started with Warhammer 40k video. As per usual though, if you like this type of content, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course drop a comment down below. I love hearing back from you guys. It goes a massive way to helping out the channel too. Now, if you've not caught up with the entirety of this series, do not worry, I will fill you in now. So, this whole series is about starting Warhammer 40k or a new 40k army on a budget of £200. Now, obviously I'm not spending £200 on each individual army. I am just going to go through what I personally would pick up for that money to give you an idea of how you could get started if you wish to. Now, the way this also works is I'm taking pricing from Warhammer.com and also an independent retailer. For the independent retailer, this series of videos is picking Wayland Games as our indie of choice. However, there are other great indie retailers out there, such as Element Games, Goblin Gaming, Just Play Games, and many others. So, shop around, find the ones that suit you, and yeah, have a bit of fun with it. So why not? Now, the other thing with this series of videos is I am giving you the point score or a rough point score at the end of each section. Now, the only reason I say a rough point score is because points can alter depending on your loadout, such as grenades and such like that. So it can have a little bit of wiggle room on there, but you'll get the gist of it, so it's not too bad. Now, so far in this series we have checked out many of the great factions within the 41st Millenniums. Whether you're looking for your Space Marines, your Leagues of Votan, Chaos Demons, Eldari, Tau, and many others, there are some really good ones, so it's worth definitely having a look out for. But there are 4 factions we have not covered yet, and all 4 are pretty decent in their own ways, and I suppose we should kick it off. So, we're going to kick it off with a bit of chaos, in the shape of the Chaos Space Marines. Now, these are the heretical fallen chapters of the Space Marines. They are fairly generic looking, so when you look at the Chaos Space Marines, these are your more generic ones. They're not World Eaters or Thousand Suns or such like, so they can be a little bit dull in a way, in my personal opinion, but you know, you can get some good units out of them. So this combat patrol box comes with a Dark Apostle along with his 2 disciples, which I must admit is one of the minis that I do genuinely like, and I might have one somewhere and never painted it yet, but really good stuff. You also get a Hellbrute, which looks like a really fleshy version of a Dreadnought. It's a little bit weird, but it's a pretty cool looking unit. Then you get 5 Havocs, which are the heavy weapon carrying Chaos Space Marines. And lastly, you get 10 of the more generic versions of the Chaos Space Marine, just carrying their normal bolters and such like. And that's it. I mean, it's a fairly decent start if you want a Chaos Space Marine army. There are many ways you can go with it as well, so you can add a little bit more to it here, there and everywhere, but this is the generic normal pack shots of black and gold and not a lot in between. But it's up to you how you want to paint them, but you know, this is the way you go with it, so it is what it is. I then would be taking something a little bit different, and I would go with a Kill Team box, and I would go with Kill Team Blooded. So these chappies are Traitor Guard. So these are parts of the Astra Militarum who have been tainted by the warp and turned their back on humanity, and yeah, they've sided with the Chaos Space Marines. They're pretty good. You see them in games like good old Warhammer 40k Darktide and such like, but yeah, they're your more generic army. They look pretty good though. I do quite like the look of these guys. They look a bit more unique because they have that Astra Militarum look that's been modified to be a little bit darker, a little bit more sinister, and obviously very much more chaos orientated. I then would actually pick up another box of more human style units in the shape of the Chaos Cultists. So these are the men and women of the 41st Millennium who have fallen to the temptations of promises of temporal power from the Dark Gods. So they're a little bit unique and a little bit different, so why not? But lastly, I actually would go back to the more generic Space Marine aesthetic taking the form of the Chaos Terminator squad. You know, they're 5 murderous elites akin to a walking tank who can just wade into battle, and they're very chaos orientated. They look very, very similar, so they fit in really nicely with your Havocs and your Chaos Space Marines, so they're pretty good. So, you have to do it every now and again, don't you, with the generic stuff. Now, if you were to buy this bunch of heretical goodness, it would set you back the entirety of your £200 budget if you're buying it from Warhammer.com, or if you're buying it from an independent retailer, you are talking around about the £160 region, and it is a 775 point army. Now that is only because I've taken Chaos, good old cultists, and Blooded as well. If you went down the route of taking more of the Chaos Space Marines, the points would go up a little bit, but they all look very similar and are all a little bit dull, and you want something that looks a bit interesting to keep your painting going. Now, that moves us on. So we have our second army of this video, and in all honesty, we are going to go for another Space Marine chapter. We only have one left to explore, so we're going to take a look at the Dark Angels. So the Dark Angels Combat Patrol box comes with more of your generic Space Marines, in all honesty. So you get a captain in Gravis armour, 3 Blade Guard veterans, you get 5 Hellblasters, and 10 Intercessors. Now, of course, with this you do get 2 of the upgrade frames for the Dark Angels as well, so you can upgrade your units to make them more Dark Angels orientated. But if you wanted, say, like a generic Space Marine army, you could keep these as your generic Space Marines, so you can just have them as Ultramarines, and it'll fit in with any of the other Combat Patrol boxes from the Space Marine ranges. So you can do that if you really, really wanted to. You know, take this box and say like the Space Marine box, and yeah, you've got a decent sized Space Marine army with some variation to it. It's entirely up to you though. Now, for the second mini I will take something that is an actual nice centerpiece style mini, and that is Asmodai, Master of Repentance. I genuinely like the aesthetic of this mini. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. Genuinely one of the nicest Dark Angels minis I think I've ever laid my eyes on. It's a great looking mini, and it does have a cool aesthetic, and obviously there are many other great heroes from the Dark Angels range that you can pick up. The other thing I would buy is I would buy myself a box of the elite death dealers known as the Deathwing Knights. So 5 elite Terminators from the ranks of Dark Angels. They look good, they look special, and at this very moment in time, in the middle of April, you can actually get one for free from your local Warhammer store. So for you to, build, install and paint at home. So why not get your ass down there and get one? Because, free mini, why not? Anywho, carrying on with this army, I would actually take something that's far more generic, so you would need an upgrade sprue at some point to kind of make sure you're going through with it, and that is the flamethrower wielding Infernus squad, because my god, I like a flamethrower. This is pretty cool. I do genuinely like a flamethrower unit because we can have a bit of fun with them, and these are your generic intercessors essentially armed with flamethrowers, so why not? Now, if you were to pick this collection of Battle Brothers, then in all honesty it's going to set you back £198.50 if you're buying it from GW, around about £158.80 though if you're buying it from some independent retailers. It also has a fairly decent points total as well, which comes in at 920 points, so it's pretty good going. The good thing with the Dark Angels though is they have a really good lore, and they have some very nice looking heroes and centerpiece minis, so you've got a lot of variation, and because they're Space Marine chapter you can bring in any of Space Marines, have a bit of fun with them, but pretty good. I do genuinely like them, they're pretty good, they're pretty cool. Yeah, it's one of them chapters though that it's very much up to you if you like them or not. Now, In all honesty, with either of these armies, neither of them are really my pick. I would go with Dark Angels over Chaos Marines, just because they look a bit cooler and they've got a really nice centerpiece minis. But otherwise, yeah, they are not really my cup of tea. But I know some people who would love them, so you may be one of them. Anyway, that is it for this penultimate video of getting started with 40k. There are only 2 more factions left to look at. They will be coming in the next video. But with all that said, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you sometime soon. Bye bye now.